My name is Doug Weintraub. I'm a senior academic advisor, manuscript administrator for the Graduate Studies Office. I will be presenting a thesis dissertation manuscript workshop. For doctoral students, I handed to you a ProQuest sheet. Doctoral students will be submitting to two digital repositories, UNM Repository and ProQuest. ProQuest is the national international repository, and it's still a requirement for doctoral students. This sheet, let's go through this, doctoral students, just real quick. What I need you to understand, this is what you'll see when you log in to ProQuest to submit your dissertation. You pick the traditional publishing. You don't have to pay the registration fee, but pick traditional publishing. You don't want to pick the open access. You don't want to order any copies from this outfit. It's too much, higher expense, but it takes too long to deliver to you. So I wouldn't order copies from them. Now, the last question is the embargo restriction question. For them, no fee. It's built in. If you want to prevent the public from reading your dissertation at ProQuest, you say no to that third question and you pick probably 2 years. We have now where UNM Repository has an embargo restriction that's set for 2 years, and then ProQuest has a maximum that's set for 2 years. So there are students that have embargo restrictions for both repositories, and that match of 2 years is what you want. But ProQuest, it's built in, no fee. UNM Repository for embargo restriction, you have to submit a request form. I set the 2-year embargo on the submitted dissertation or thesis, but you pay a $40 fee at UNM cashiers. And the form I have as one of the handouts in the back. So you do have to get permission from your committee chair for the UNM Repository embargo restriction. So have a conversation with your chair on whether or not you want UNM Repository to have embargo restriction. This handout that I have that was in the back, I'm just going to give it real quick. It's table of contents .leader instructions. At your table of contents, after you have your text and you set your page numbers, the dots that you set between the page number and the text, you don't want to just be in just dot, 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 dot with your keyboard. You can actually select your entire table of contents and follow these instructions, and it will automatically, when you set your cursor at the end of the text and you follow these instructions, it will set up the full line of dots uniformly on your table of contents. One thing at the request of my dean, more recently in the last few years, we've had situations about plagiarism. And just last month, we set up at the grad.unm website, under the tutorials, there is a understanding plagiarism. If you feel that you want to get a little better understanding about plagiarism, this would be a good place to just know what that entails and hopefully not have that type of situation happen before you graduate. If any of you are using a hard copy thesis or dissertation that you may have checked out from your department library, or the UNM library that's before fall 2010, be very careful about how you use that format. The best thing right now, I would say, because I've streamlined the process a lot, and we've eliminated red border pages and front matter pages in the last several years. I would refer you to the UNM repository under your collection to people that have probably submitted within the last couple of years or last year. That would be one reference to be able to see visually an example of a thesis dissertation that has the type of format that follows what we recommend right now. But I'll be going through some of that format in just a bit, but I just want to make sure that you're not using an old formatted thesis or dissertation. Now, embargo restriction. Again, for master's and doctoral, when you're submitting to the UNM Digital Repository, if you want to have restricted your dissertation research, thesis research, and not have it available to the public, this request form, this is the UNM repository request form. You get it signed by your committee chair, and you have to write a separate explanation of why you want that to be restricted from view. And my supervisor, Robin Baca, reviews the embargo restrictions. Once they're approved, I place it in this packet that you send manuscript forms to me, and I'll go through that in a minute. But I'm the one that I'm the administrator of the UNM site, so I'm the one that goes in, sets the 2-year embargo. And what I will tell you is a lot more students have requested the embargo. Because we are Wide World Web, and the thesis dissertation for UNM repositories open access, more and more in the last few years, online publishers and regular journals, if they see that open access thesis dissertation, they may tell you that they won't publish your research in an article if they see it online. It's just the way the new age is happening now. They claim it's a published work. For us, it's just an educational work. If you published with UNM, it would be going through UNM Press, but because of just this wide world web atmosphere, consider if you're planning to publish later on and you want to protect your work, you may want to consider the embargo restriction. Okay?
Is UNM considering not, in light of that, are they considering not having everything open access?
No, we will always, the question was, will UNM have open access all the time? We as an institution believe in open access, and we will always have open access. It will be up to the student all the time to always request embargo restriction. Okay? And that's why for even doctoral students, for ProQuest, that's why that question is there too, so that they can limit the exposure nationally, internationally, if they have to make sure that their research is not becoming a global reference before they can actually publish their own work. So keep that in mind about just, if you want to talk about it a little more, just come by and see me. But again, your committee chair will have to sign this form in order for you to do the embargo restriction. How many are graduating this term? Okay. What I'm going to mention, two things have changed since fall 16. One, we're no longer submitting to the LoboVault repository, digital repository. That was the original UNM Zimmerman repository. They're actually going to close it down at the end of spring 17, and as of fall 16, I initiated, we have a new UNM repository with a new link. So if you have some old paperwork that has the word LoboVault in it, you want to pick this new procedure up. But just keep in mind, UNM has a new UNM Digital Repository that you're submitting to. It's easy, it's an easier submission than what LoboVault was, but just keep in mind, the new link is digitalrepository.unm.edu. I'll show you where the procedures are and where that link is, but that is the new link for the UNM repository. The second change is that before you defend your dissertation, your thesis, you have to fill out a last form out of graduate studies called the announcement of examination. As of last fall, we have eliminated the hard copy announcement of exam form. It is now an online form. And what I'm going to show you, this is actually the main graduate site, grad.unm.edu. If you go to degree completion, usually this icon is over on the far right when I bring up my main page, but you click on degree completion, thesis dissertation. This is my main thesis dissertation website page, which has all the information about formatting, template pages, information about copyright, tutorial. And right here, here's the UNM Digital Repository link. You click on that, that takes you to the UNM repository. For doctoral students, this ProQuest UMI, you click here, follow the instructions, takes you to the ProQuest repository. Well, what I want to do is I want to go to Manuscript Forms, which takes us to the Graduate Studies forms. The second icon, examination grades, this is what I was mentioning just a minute ago. Now, you as the student are responsible to submit the announcement of exam. It's not the departments anymore that submit this form. You have to submit the announcement of exam form for your thesis defense or your dissertation defense at least 2 weeks before the time, date, place of your defense. What you'll do is you click on this online form, you log in, the form comes up, and this is what you need to know. You need to know your time, date, and place of your defense, and you need to have the name of your committee members. Those are the most important information that you need for this online form. Once you complete and submit this form, it goes to your department chair, and he gets an email notification. He goes online, he approves it. It goes to my counterpart, Tammy Ellis, out of Graduate Studies. She verifies that your committee's good, and then she approves it, and then it just stays in online until after you defend. After you defend, that day that you defend, you want to remind your committee chair that after they've come up with their decision for you to pass and whether or not distinction, your committee chair for the report of exam, which is the second part of this main announcement of exam, they need to go in to initiate the decision for results for the report of exam. And this is very important for your committee chair, because if he doesn't do this, it's the committee chair. Once he submits and says, yes, I agree that you've passed, maybe you have edit revisions, but notifications go out to the rest of your committee after he submits. If he doesn't do this, then it just stays there in an idle mode, and we want this report of exam completed before the degree requirement deadline, especially if you're planning to graduate for spring 2017 term. So just keep in mind, as a student now, one of the main changes now is that you need to sit down with your committee chair, find out what your time, date, and place of your defense is, and then initiate within 2 weeks the online announcement of exam.
Where do they go once we defend them to initiate that decision?
Okay, the actual site is called gradforms.unm.edu. I think when you click on online form and you go to the top, that's what shows up in the field as the location. But it's gradforms.unm.edu. I would suggest that, yes, hand that off to your committee chair and tell them that this is the site where they will find your name to complete the report of exam. Now, usually at the defense, what you want to do also is right here under my manuscript block, this report of thesis dissertation form. I put some in the back. What you want to do is you want to download this and have one for each one of your committee members. They need to have this in front of them. This is what they use to comment about your presentation, but also rate your presentation. And this is an important form. It's still required because sometimes if a committee member has a different opinion of your presentation of your defense, it's the department chair that may refer to this form as a decision to decide whether or not you get distinction sometimes. But just keep in mind, download this form, and what you do, you put your name, your UNM ID, your department. This is where you put your committee chair's name on every one of the forms. Then the first one, your committee chair. The second one, your second committee member, third committee member. If you have a title, you can put your title in, but you just have this available. You either hand these off to your committee chair so that when you walk in, the committee members already have it, or when you walk in, you hand these to the committee. But it's really important to have this form in front of them when you defend. Now, within probably 2 months of your defense, if not right now, you should be writing. And some committees, committee chairs, they ask for chapter 1. I want to review your chapter 1. I want to review your chapter 2. What is your data? Some committees and committee chairs, they want these separate. What I also find is some departments, some committees actually want the full format of your front matter and your body of work sort of laid out as a rough draft so that they can review everything all at once. talk to your committee chair about what approach they want you to do when they ask you to review your thesis or dissertation. The reason I say this is you want to have this happening either 2 to 3 months before you defend, because most of the time at your defense, you should have a pretty much a rough draft of your thesis dissertation in a Microsoft Word file, laid out pretty much so that it'll be reviewed. So when you go into the defense, after your defense, you should have just minor edit revisions. You do those minor edit revisions, you convert to a PDF file, and then you're ready to submit to the digital repository for UNM to meet your degree requirement. So kind of keep that in mind about just this announcement of exam online, the report of thesis dissertation form, and just sort of get a forward-looking idea about on the calendar. When are you going to defend? Where are you with your writing? And just you'll be able to start to plan out how you kind of complete these benchmarks to meet the degree requirement deadline. Now, for spring, the degree requirement deadline is April 15th. It's on a Saturday. So the official degree requirement deadline is April 17th, Monday, 5 p.m. That's when, if you want to graduate for spring term, you need to have defended your dissertation thesis. You need to have all your edit revisions done and submitted, and that final PDF file submitted to the UNM repository. You need to have the announcement report of exam online completed by your faculty members by the 5 p.m. deadline, April 17th. And I really want to impress upon you that what's really important about this electronic form report of exam is now that we've initiated Follow 16, we found that a lot of faculty members are confused and don't know what to do with this completion of the electronic report of exam. We had a lot of them come in after the deadline date, and a lot of graduate students were dropped from graduation, from the graduation list for fall. We had maybe 25 to 40 students dropped because faculty members didn't complete the report of examination online. So I would keep in mind, you don't want to wait till the last day of the degree requirement deadline to defend and assume that your entire committee is going to get this done. Certain departments are really on track now, and committee members that have already done it have a pretty good feeling for what they need to do to complete this electronic report of exam. But you want to probably be defending within the last 2 weeks of March, if not the first week of April, and have at least 2 weeks to do your edit revisions and have your committee complete that report of exam so that we can get everything into our office, and Tammy Ellis, my graduation coordinator, and myself, we will review status and make sure, and I try very hard when I get my list of master's, doctoral students that have defended, I keep track of just seeing that you're on track and that I can keep you on the list. But Tammy and I work together on trying to keep this graduation list active when we're in this major activity of announcement report of exams. After you defend, one of the main UNM graduate policies is that you have 90 days to submit your thesis dissertation to the UNM repository to meet your degree requirement. So for a lot of you that are graduating spring, it's either you're meeting the degree requirement deadline or you're meeting your 90-day policy. Right now, if any of you defend as of now to April, you won't be able to graduate this term if you go the full 90 days. But just keep in mind, 90 days from the defense date, you need to have your thesis dissertation submitted to the UNM repository. Whichever comes first, degree requirement deadline or your 90 days. If you, in fact, have a lot of edit revisions and you feel that you won't meet the degree requirement deadline of April 17th, there's a second option. It's called courtesy policy to graduate summer. So from April 18th to May 13th, which is the last day of spring term, if you defended April 1st, or let's just say March 1st, you go past the April 17th deadline. If you submit by May 13th and get your entire degree requirement completed, you've submitted to the repository, you don't have to enroll in summer for your thesis 599 or dissertation 699 hours to graduate summer. So keep that in mind if, you know, the pressures or you just, depending on how close to April 15th you defend, edit revisions, and whether or not you meet that deadline or you go past that to go courtesy policy to graduate summer. But remember about 90 days. You don't want to go past your 90 days because if you do, your department and or our office can request that you redefend your thesis or dissertation. Otherwise, if you feel that you're going to go past 90 days, then you need to petition the Dean of Graduate Studies, Dr. Julie Coonrod, for extension to the 90-day policy. Now, one of the other policies you need to keep track of or be aware of, and I can check that, is for masters, it's your time to degree. Time to degree for masters is always the first course that you use on your program of studies toward your degree requirement up to 7 years. 7-year time to degree for masters. And it's always the first course that you use on your program of studies for your degree requirement. For doctoral students and MFA students, it's always 5 years from the passing of your PhD comprehensive. And if you feel that you're not sure where you're at, just email me and I'll do an academic status. But keep in mind, degree requirement deadline, April 17th for spring, July 15th for summer, and November 15th for fall. It's called the degree requirement deadline. It lands in the middle of the term, but for you to graduate in that same term, you need to meet that deadline. Anybody using LaTeX? Okay, so LaTeX, are you using it from my site? Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I have formatting aids at my guidelines at my thesis dissertation site. For those of you that are using LaTeX, the one thing about that LaTeX, and I tried to get Bruce Morrell, who owns the LaTeX software now. Neil Dorn from Sandia was the one that established LaTeX, but Bill Morrell owns it now. What you need to understand about this LaTeX, it doesn't have the approval page. The first page of your front matter, it's not established in those files. So I found that a lot of the students, most students, will have to generate the PDF approval page and merge it as a PDF to that PDF LaTeX file that you're generating overall. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to go to the manuscript block. These three forms, the information cover sheet, electronic release form, and certification of final form. I handed them out in the back. For me, it is very important. The earlier you get these three forms to me before you defend, the easier for me to do an academic review, check everything that might, because I'll look at your transcript, I'll look at banner, I'll check to see your time to degree. Are there any grade issues? Are there anything that I think that might prevent you from graduating? But the information cover sheet, just demographic information that I need to know, your committee members. And this form, I write a lot of status about when you're defending, forms, and things that are outstanding that I don't have. Actually, I write on here whether or not you're going to have an embargo restriction. But what I need from you is to just, you go here, information cover sheet, ETD release form, certification of final form. You can fill these out right there on that site and save them. And what I have a lot of students doing now is they'll scan, email these forms to me. It's really fast and pretty quick for me to print them out and establish a packet. And I have this file for spring 17 so that I have status on you when you forward these forms to me. Now what I'd like you to do, information cover sheet, certification of final form. This is the certification of final form that you're, in the final signature needs to come from your committee chair. But what I would need you to do is just print, sign your name, scan, email it to me. Keep the original and just hand it off to your committee chair so that he or she knows that after you defend, when your edit revisions are done and they're confident that this thesis dissertation is ready to be submitted to the repository, they'll sign and date this form, and I need to have this sent back to me by the April 17th, 5 p.m. deadline. But again, information cover sheet, certification of final form, ETD release form. You need to submit this form in tandem if you're planning to do an embargo restriction. This form just says that you're allowing Zimmerman Library to have your thesis dissertation submitted to the repository. But you complete these forms, scan, email them to me, or you can turn them in hard copy to the front desk at Graduate Studies. They'll come to me and I'll do a review, and if I see something unusual, I will email you. But I would like to see these at least a couple of weeks before you defend, if not earlier. The earlier, the better, so that I can make sure that everything looks good on how you're finishing this degree requirement to finally defend and graduate. So 3 forms, very important, manuscript forms. Now right here, what I did in fall, I established some procedures. So you got your master's, plan 1, your MFA, and your doctoral. For each one of you that's appropriate to your degree level, you just click on this, and this has most of the information you need to know about degree requirement deadline, embargo restriction. Here are the forms that you're going to generate, my site, and there's my email. Talks about courtesy policy. And then here is the new link that I told you about, the new UNM repository. Follow these instructions, and you shouldn't have any problems accessing the new UNM repository. digitalrepository.unm.edu. Now, I believe, let me see. Right here, important paragraph. When you're ready to submit, you'll log in, you'll go to the site. On the right side, you go to the Browse block, and you click on Collections. In the center, we'll come up with engineering ETDs, all the different departments that are relevant to what department you're in. You click on that, and that should take you to the final collection that's appropriate to your degree. Now, if you have a doubt about what your degree title should be, especially on the title page, which is the second template page of the front matter, email me and I'll tell you what your degree title is. Some of the departments, especially in education, your degree title is different from what your department name is. So just if you are not sure what you should be placing on the title page, just email me. But again, for each one of these, just download these forms or read the procedures. All the information's there. It's very, if you really want me to, I'll send an email. I have these on my email, so I can just real fast track an email of this procedure to you. But otherwise, just know that in this manuscript block, there's where the procedures are. Here's the embargo restriction form if you lose it. This form, let's go into format. This attachment, this form, is actually part of the tutorial at my thesis dissertation website page. And in Module 1, this attachment is there. But let's go over what I need to see about UNM manuscript format guidelines that you need to follow. Again, after this, I'm going to generate what I call a one document file. It's a basic Microsoft file that has the first part, front matter, with Roman numeral page numbers, section break, and then the second half, Arabic page numbers, which is your body of research. Basic file, once you start, you get your 2 template pages formatted, saved to your computer, you copy and paste it in. You start to generate what the front matter should look like. When you have chapter 1 that's whether edits are done or not, you can copy paste in the second part of this one doc file and start creating what I call a Microsoft thesis or Microsoft dissertation, where you, in the end, it's a rough draft. You do your edit revisions, and in the final document, you'll convert to a PDF. That PDF is what you submit to the UNM repository. Now, again, front matter, lowercase Roman numeral page numbers. And I'll show you how to do that. But just keep in mind that front matter needs to be lowercase Roman numeral page numbers. You have to decide what page number location you want it to be. I only accept upper right-hand corner, bottom center. Those two locations, depending on if you're having footnotes or endnotes or which is best to have that location, those are the only two locations I accept. Not bottom right-hand corner, especially for creative writing. Do not want to have it bottom right-hand corner or upper left-hand corner. If it gets submitted that way, you'll get an email from me to ask for a resubmission for corrections. So keep that in mind about page number location. Margins. In the guidelines, I have 1.5 spacing. You can go down to 1.25 inch spacing on the left side. Now that we're electronic, you can go to 1.25 just because it doesn't impede on the binding. Even when you print out an unbound copy, it's not significant. I wouldn't go to 1 inch on the left side because then it would maybe impact going into the binding if you're planning to do an unbound copy. But 1.25 left side margin, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch top, right, and bottom on the main body of research. Even the front matter too. 12 font is what I need to see for your text. Keep in mind, a lot of the new Microsoft software defaults to Calibre on the font style. If you're doing Times Roman, there's a slight difference in the format, so you want to be aware that you're not doing different fonts from chapter 1, chapter 2. I sometimes see that, and I'll send an email off if I think there's an issue there. But just keep in mind with a lot of the new Microsoft, it defaults to Calibre, especially if you're staying with Times Roman. Double spacing on the text. The abstract page in the front matter and in the body of work, you want double spacing. Now, as long as you have permission from your committee chair, you can go to 1.5 spacing. For doctoral students, that could reduce the number of pages quite a bit. So keep in mind 1.5 spacing if you have approval from your committee chair. Now, one thing I want to mention too about format. So before I forget, one thing that's really important at this point, you do not want to be using multiple computers. You don't want to be working on your UNM computer at your department, your laptop at your home, your desktop at your work. If you're using, because there's so many changes going on with Microsoft software, you want to prevent as many embed errors from happening when you convert to a PDF file. And what I recommend is you have an external hard drive or a flash drive. You have most of your material on the external hard drive and flash drive. You take that flash drive or external hard drive to your work computer, to your laptop, to your work or your department computer, and do your work off of that file. It will be you'll find that you'll have a much better conversion to the PDF without just generating a file from a computer at work and then utilizing, copy and pasting it into this one doc file, because it could cause major embed errors that could, well, make you unhappy for sure. That's just one thing just to keep in mind. I've found that an external hard drive is probably very good to do but I have a lot of students using flash drives too. They'll bring their flash drive and they'll bring it to me so that I can do a review of it. Now, I would recommend that before you submit your thesis dissertation, whether it's in Microsoft Word or a PDF, send it to my email. Let me do a review of the front matter, the body of work, and just give my own review of whether there's corrections. Because the last thing I think you want to do is have to submit to the repository, think you're all done, here you're having dinner, and you get this email from me that says that you have to resubmit for a correction. So send your thesis dissertation to me before you submit and just ask me to do a review, and I'll look at it. I kind of do a speed read of the body, but I have a very good eye for what to look for. Yes?
If we have to resubmit for some sort of like formatting error, how does that impact? So say you submit on April 14th
Okay.
and you contact us
Yeah.
and it needs to be resubmitted.
So what she's asking is if you're meeting the degree requirement deadline and you submit and I send this resubmission email, I make sure that you're not dropped from graduation list. As long as you address my email for correction, at least within a week of that recommendation for corrections, most of the time now with the new repository, you can actually log in and just edit or replace the PDF at the location of the repository. In LoboVault, we were having to resubmit every time. You don't have to do that now. And for doctoral students, for ProQuest, same thing. If I ask for a resubmission or a correction, all you need to do is go to that PDF and edit the PDF or replace the PDF for the corrected version of your dissertation or thesis. Okay? All right. Let me ask, I want to mention a couple of other things. So, just real quick, for you that are using Apple Mac computers, in the last couple of years, we've been finding, or I've been finding, that there have been some issues with the Microsoft software that's on a Mac when you're doing your format. I've had some students who actually were creating their format on the Microsoft software, but some of them had issues with trying to insert tables, figures, images. Also, there was some factor where they were having some problems trying to set up their table of contents accurately. But the most important thing that was happening sometimes was when you log in to the UNM repository to submit your thesis or dissertation, I'm not sure if it's the web provider that you're using or whether it's something within the Mac that when you try to grab your file from your Mac and bring it to the browse field to attach your dissertation thesis to complete this electronic submission to the repository, it shuts down the submission. And I've had this happen almost every term. I don't know what that type of criteria is, but I've had some doctoral students have to come on campus to submit to a regular PC when they had that type of situation. But it's just something I want to just mention to you. Just be aware of it. Now that I mentioned about tables, figures, images, you need to decide as a student or whether your committee chair asks you to insert tables, figures within the body of work. If you are going to insert tables, figures, images within the text between the body, you want to make sure that you maybe have 1 or 2 spaces at the bottom of the page what I've been finding that is if you do not leave a space at the bottom of the page, this is just above the footnote area, spacing area. When you convert to a PDF, it could collapse your table figure or change your page numbers in reference to your table of contents. But I found that if you leave a couple of spaces when you're incorporating a table figure within the page, it seems to help when you compress that file to have that PDF. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, especially for doctoral students, if your committee chair asks you to attach within your PDF dissertation a whole, as appendix, a whole amount of data that has this sort of extraneous software to it, it could impact your dissertation PDF with embed errors if you have a lot of extra data within the PDF. At the UNM repository, the step when you submit, there is a separate field called additional files. What you might want to do is if this extraneous data is not real important to being within the PDF, you could keep it in your computer as a separate file. Establish an appendix, B, C, D, to say submitting a supplementary file with maybe a statement that what is this data. So what you do, you keep that file outside the PDF dissertation or thesis. When you're submitting to the digital repository, at this field that you just submit your dissertation PDF, thesis PDF, the separate, you can actually submit additional files. I've had students submit 4 to 5 data sets outside that PDF, and it seems it will reduce the number of pages that you have in your dissertation, but it may save you embed errors that could be very much a very frustrating trying to correct that type of file. If in fact you are having problems with converting to a PDF and you keep on getting these embed errors, ProQuest Repository has a PDF converter that is the best in the world. They've been around from the beginning, and they have one of the best PDF converters, especially for doctoral students. And that doesn't restrict master's students from using it. But if you're finding that you have Adobe PDF or QPDF or this conversion to a PDF where you're having some issues, that would be one other option to check out ProQuest PDF. If you even run into major problems even then, contact me and we'll contact my formatter, because she can do that type of correction, discover what the embed errors, fix it, and get you back on track to get a final PDF to submit. Any questions on format? Those are the basic things that I look for. Again, when you submit to the digital repository for UNM, even ProQuest, what I do is I do a random check of your table of contents that's in the front matter, and I make sure they match the page numbers in your body of research. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but is there a maximum or a minimum pages for theses?
There isn't really. I've had thesis 12 pages, maybe even up to 250 pages. Doctoral students, now that we've been electronic, the largest file that I had was 900 pages, but I don't think you're actually going to go that far. But that's why a lot of these pages, especially for doctoral students, that's why it's really important. Decide on and talk to your committee chair about keeping those data sets outside the PDF, because that could impact how many number of pages you have within that dissertation PDF or thesis PDF. What I want to do is go back to so this is my main thesis dissertation page. Here's the manuscript tutorial. This is an online tutorial that we generated about 2 years ago. Very good. Module 2 talks about the format that we just talked about. Module 3 actually will show you how to generate a one-doc file. So keep in mind, they're about 15 minutes each, but it's very good at just having you get acquainted to how to deal with Microsoft format and how to set up that file. Oh, here we go again. Sorry about that. Manuscript templates. These are the 2 pages that you need to generate from my template pages. They are the page 1 and page 2 of the front matter. On the approval page, the most important thing that you want to do on these templates is you want to go to, actually, okay. What's most important, these are locked templates at my website. What you want to do for the approval page and the title page, you want to go up here to review, restrict editing, stop protection. This is so important. If you do not do this for these 2 pages, you can save this to your computer, but you'll never get it copy and pasted into this one Microsoft doc file. It would drive you crazy overnight trying to figure out how to copy and paste. The reason why that's happening is because it's a locked template, and you do need to do this review, restrict editing, stop protection. For earlier computers, for some Microsoft software, if you have the word tools at the top of your page, you click on Unprotect Document. So keep that in mind. Now, the one thing about this approval page, you need to have typed committee members' names here. If your faculty members do not say that they need to sign it, I mean, you can print out an approval page for yourself for an unbound copy that you may generate, but you want typed committee members' names only. A couple years ago, went national where online thesis dissertations, the signatures on approval pages were the PDFs were being broken, and they were using signatures for illegal means. So that's why we've gone to typed committee members' names. Okay, so here's the title page. You do want to do view and edit so that you have access to typing. I'm going to do the same thing. Review, restrict editing. What happened here? Stop protection. Now, title page, page 2 of the front matter. What you want to do is you type out your title. You type out your name. For a master's, Master of Science or Master of Arts, double space, put the title of your degree. Again, if you don't know what your title of your degree is, email me and I'll let you know. Now notice how it went to 2 pages. This last field is your graduation date. So if you're graduating in spring, you want to have May 2017. Summer, July 2017. For fall, it would be December 2017. But you type that out. Now, in order to get this to just be 1 page, to become that title page, page 2 of the front matter, just take your cursor, put it on the right side, backspace twice. It takes the gray field out and centers everything. So you just cursor, backspace. And if you don't take these gray fields out, they'll actually show up on your main document. And it looks a little odd, so it's best to take these gray fields out. There's your title page. You did the review, restrict edit, stop protection. You just save this to your computer. You do the same thing to your approval page. Now we're going to go into one doc file. I'm going to create a Microsoft doc file so that what you're going to do is you got the 2 template pages ready. You can just copy and paste them as page 1, page 2 in the front matter, and start to create this thesis dissertation Microsoft file that starts to come together. Again, you still need to set up margins, you still need to do the spacing, still need to do font, but that comes in when you're starting to do your writing. But there's the 2 pages. See right here, thesis example, dissertation example. Appropriate to the master's for thesis, doctoral or MFA for dissertation. This is the visual example of what your front matter should look like. So there's the approval page, title page. If you want a dedication, someone more personal. Acknowledgement, professional academic. Abstract page, I do need to have you place your title, your name, your previous degrees, and the current degree that you're graduating with. Abstract paragraph about your research. Now again, when you submit to the UNM repository and ProQuest, there is a field in the submission process where you do need to put an abstract in. You do need to have an abstract. It will ask, so you either decide to copy and paste the abstract that you created in the front matter that will go toward this one field in the submission, or you edit it down. Table of contents. Appendices, list of figures. They're optional, but you have to decide whether or not you talk to your committee chair. If you're not doing them, and then you say, do you want list of figures, list of tables? He or she may say yes. You decide how you are going to, whether you're going to reference all your figures and tables. I know that engineering, computer science, math, they usually do these type of list of figures, list of tables. They're optional. Now this is where the document, you have a section break, Roman numeral page numbers, anything above is the front matter, and then this is your body of work. Arabic page numbers, chapter 1, introduction, but body of research is down below. This is a Microsoft file, front matter, body of research. That's what you want in your Microsoft Word file to copy and paste and become this thesis dissertation. Now, I have already developed what I call a one document file, a one document Microsoft file. I've created 10 pages with Roman numeral page numbers for the front matter, section break, and 4 pages of Arabic page numbers. You email me and say, Doug, send me the one doc file. This would be your basic file that you want to start with. If you don't want to deal with creating this one doc file, which I'm going to do right now, real fast, you can ask me for that one doc file, and I'll send it to you. Now, my file, I have the page numbers in the upper right-hand corner, but they're already there, and like I said, what you want to do is you do want to have your page numbers in the file first before you start copying and pasting everything in. Okay? Especially the first 2 template pages. If you don't put your page numbers first and you copy and paste the approval page, title page, you'll find that those first 2 pages will not ever have a page number, and you won't be able to have that. That's fine. I don't mind not seeing Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, but in the front matter, that 3rd page, whether it's your copyright page or your dedication page, or even just the abstract page, I better see that Roman numeral 3 and the rest of your Roman numeral page numbers for the front matter. But I'm going to create a one doc file right now. Okay, I'm going to bring up this one doc file. So here's just a main one doc file. I'm going to set up, and if you want to set this up as we go, that's fine. Otherwise, like I said, you can email me and I'll send you my G Drive one doc file. I do that a lot, but here we go. What you want to do is you want to decide how many pages you're going to have in your front matter. Approval page, title page, dedication page, acknowledgement page, 2 pages of abstract, 3 pages of table of contents. And I'll leave 1 page that's just, could be table of figures, glossary, abbreviations, anything that you add at the end of the front matter. So 10 pages front matter, and I'm going to do 4 pages just body of work. That's all you really need to set up the one doc file, because once you select all of chapter 1, copy and paste it in that page 1 of the body of work, it will create all those pages for chapter 1. So what we'll do is we're going to create the pages first. So I'm going to go to Insert, Pages, on the far right, left side. And I'm going to just click on Page Break. And down at the bottom here, you're going to see the generation of each of the pages. 11, 12, 13, 14. We've created the 14 pages. Now what I want to do is I want to set my section break next. So at the top of page 11, I want to set my section break. So I'm going to scroll up. Here's page 11. I'm going to go to the top of page 11. I'm going to put my cursor on page 11, go to Insert, actually Page Layout, just one over. Page Layout, right here, see where it says Breaks? Now sometimes Microsoft doesn't have that word breaks, but you have to look for this symbol. You click on that, and here's your section break. Click on next page, not continuous section break. Pick on that, that sets the section break.
So next page section break?
Well, it is in the block of section break, but click on the next page. Don't do the continuous, the next page, what you need. So now, let's just go to the top of the page, because what we want to do is we want to set page number location. So I'm going to go to top of the page, to my page 1. Insert, and go over here to where it says page number. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick top of page, and this gives you what your choice is. I'm going to pick this one. What it's done is it's set up actually it went all the way down. Let's see what I did here. There we go. So upper right-hand corner, my page number location. Now, this is the front matter. What I want it to be is Roman numeral page numbers. So I'm going to just go right back to Insert, Page Numbers. Pick the Format Page Number right here. You'll go to this arrow, go down to lowercase Roman numeral, start at 1, OK. It's changed the entire front matter to Roman numeral page numbers. So what I'll do is I scroll down, I should come up with page 10, Roman numeral, and then it should be Arabic page 11. There's 10. Well, actually it did page 11. Gave me an extra page. There's my 12. So it actually turns out it set the section break here, but front matter above, body of work down below. You do not want to have page 12 here. You want to have page 1. More often than not, I have students that will submit where they go continuous all the way from the beginning, and I'll have to write an email to ask for a correction. So all you do is you just put your cursor on page 12, insert page numbers, format, there's your Arabic, start at 1, OK. This is your basic, what I call one Microsoft doc file. Save it to your computer. This is your basic file that you start. Now once you generate this, all you have to do is you just scroll up. Let's see, where did it go? There it is. If you have your approval page generated, you can copy and paste it, page 1. Page 2, your title page. Page 3, you decide whether or not it's going to be your copyright page or a dedication page. I've had some students just have their abstract page start here. But you could just type it out, dedication page. If you don't have the dedication written out, that's fine. Just put the word in bold, dedication, acknowledgement. Just type out abstract. Decide maybe with the amount of words you've got in your abstract, it may be 1 or 2, 3 pages. will go 2 pages. Type out table of contents. That may take up, that we're at page 7, 2, 3, maybe 4 pages, whether or not you put list of figures, list of tables in. But that's basically your front matter in rough form, draft form, and then it's just a matter of you decide chapter 1. Are you going to do all your edit revisions after your defense within the file that you've been doing your writing for chapter 1, and then just copy, paste it into this file when it's done? And like I said, all you have to do you put your cursor on page 1, you select all of chapter 1 in your file, copy paste, generates the 30, 40 pages. Chapter 2, chapter 3. That's what becomes this final Microsoft file to do your edit revisions, to become a thesis, a dissertation. And when you're finally at that point, and this might be the file or the final draft that you might send to your committee to read, and they say, yes, it looks good, you can submit. But what you do is convert to a PDF, log in, submit to the UNM repository. Also, no blank pages. Some students, I've had one student last term specifically request, and I had to actually have a petition to allow him to put blank pages in between every one of his chapters. And he had some reason that when he was doing his unbound copy, somehow he wanted to have a blank page. So I had to have him petition to allow that to be submitted electronically. Because technically our UNM guideline says you have to have text on every page. Even if you put a quote on a blank page, I'm okay with that, or an image, but I cannot have blank pages. Yes. Well, depending on where you're placing your references, references are usually at the end of the body of research, but I found that for some students who have a lot of appendices, they may incorporate their references before the appendices. But that's something to have a conversation with your committee chair about. Okay?
Do we number our appendices? Thinking of
Page numbers? They have to be continuous all the way through, yeah.
So that, and that's, they're considered body of work.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Appendices, references are all part of the body of research. So page 1, all the way down to that last page. And again, remember when you do your edit revisions after your defense, make sure that you redo the table of contents in the front matter. Because I find more often than not, some of those page numbers are not matching to the body, and this happens after submission. That's pretty much, I think, what I want to kind of get that knowledge to you. Again, email me if you want me to do a status, academic status, or you have a question about something in specific to format. Any of you doing hybrid dissertation thesis? Anybody in biology? Okay. That's just another criteria that sometimes I'll mention that hybrid thesis dissertation is where you're using your thesis or dissertation where your chapter 1 is a published work, article, journal that you've done. Chapter 2 may be unpublished, but it's usually 3 to 4 chapters with a conclusion chapter, but you're utilizing some different research that are within the same field that are published or unpublished. published or unpublished. Okay? All right, well, thank you for coming.